1. Good folk, I have no coin. To take were to purloin. I have no copper in my purse. I have no silver either. Score! I said to the scruffy gray cat sitting on the building's loading dock. She'd never even think to look for me here. The cat replied with a near-silent mew and set about cleaning its face. One ear was ragged from a long-healed injury. I double-checked the scrap of paper I'd torn out of the classified section of the Toronto Star. Yep, this was the place that was looking for tenants. It didn't look like much, sitting there on a downtown corner. It was a blocky, crumbling cube of a warehouse. Looked like it had a basement below, 2 stories above. It was wedged between upscale high-rise condos and low-rise co-op townhouses. There were buildings in this city that went to hundreds of floors. Your ears would pop from the altitude change just going up in the elevator. But those sparkly new structures, they needed the reflected gleam of sunlight off their chromed and mirrored surfaces in order to shine. This building, it sucked in light, and the glow it gave back couldn't be seen in daylight or in Toronto's overlit night. Not by purely clay-picking eyes, that is. I could see it, though. One of the few perks of being a crippled deity half-breed. Although I had no mojo of my own, I could sometimes get a glimpse of the glow-on that some things and people had. Not as strongly as Abby could. Still, if I squinted exactly the right way for just a split second, I'd see a flash bounce off shiny people and things, like the green flash on the horizon just as the sun sinks into Lake Ontario. That warehouse had some shine to it. Inanimate objects can get that way when they've rubbed up against the ineffable for a long time. The building's faint burr of shininess was my first clue that I might like living there. The exterior paint job was something else, in a wacky way that I liked. Probably years before someone had slopped teal-green paint onto a raw brick. They'd used a dark, muddy purple for the exterior window rims and sills and the edging around the roof. Then, for good measure, they'd lined the inner surfaces of the window's rims with dark yellow, kind of a mango color. Made the windows look like the insides of baby birds' beaks when they gaped them wide and demanded food from their exhausted parents. When he'd realized he was slipping, our dad had signed our childhood home over to me and my sister. Since Abby and I had to live in the world, it was best if we had clay-pickin' legal documents to prove that the place was ours. But I'd had it with living under Abby's wing. She could have my share in the house. I was going to go it alone from now on. My pulse leapt at the thought. I think a tree talked to me today, I told Abby, hating myself for doing this again, for coveting mojo so badly that I kept trying to talk myself into believing I had it. I'd never been able to read trees before, so why would I suddenly now have developed a knack for it? I waited, toying with the food on my plate, sitting at Abby's expensive mahogany table, eating off her handmade plates from some artist studio over in the distillery district, staring at the graceful young oak tree in Abby's front yard through the leaded panes of Abby's antique stained glass living room window. In my own house, I cotched like a boarder. Teal with purple edging and yellow accents. Abby would hate the place. She would especially hate that it was crass enough to have a name. Hand-painted in toppling white letters over the entrance were the words, Cheerful Rest. Abby's lips would curl at the inept lettering, the building that looked like a squat for homeless people. Me? I thought it was neat.